President Donald Trump has escalated his threats against Venezuela, warning that the country's airspace should be considered closed. Caracas slammed Trump's warning as a colonialist threat and warned that the airspace disruptions would also mean a halt to repatriation flights of Venezuelan migrants from the U.S. Trump's warning comes amid a significant U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean. On Saturday, U.S. Navy landing craft patrolled the coast of southern Puerto Rico. Washington says its operations are aimed at curbing drug trafficking. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro framed the stepped-up U.S. deployments as an attempt to regime change. He has responded with public displays of force, including military exercises and mass rallies, and also used comedy as a diplomacy in a bid to ease tensions with the U.S.
I'm more famous than Taylor Swift in the U.S. right now, than Karol G. I'm more famous than Bad Bunny. I even want to record an album to see if we can get funding for more community council and commune projects with the album sales. Who will help me? You, Hector, or Rod Bexa? Rod Bexa, write me some songs. Youth? I sing well. I don't sing that badly. It could be Super Bigot, who is famous. How do you say Super Bigot in English? Super Mustache? Super Mustache.
Peace forever! Peace forever!
Analysts, however, say Venezuela's military is no match for the United States. 6 sources familiar with the country's defenses described a force weakened by poor training, low pay and aging equipment. Rank and file soldiers earn the equivalent of about $100 per month, far below what families need for basic necessities. Sources say desertions, which already occur in many units, could increase in the event of a U.S. military attack. In recent years, Venezuelan troops' primary experience has been handling street protests and not high-intensity combat. And while Maduro claims that 8 million civilians are training in militias, sources estimate that only a few thousand intelligence agents, loyalist groups, and militia members would meaningfully mobilize in defense. Much of Venezuela's equipment, from Russian-made tanks and helicopters to shoulder-fired missiles, is said to be outdated. In the 2000s, the country purchased about 20 Sukhoi fighter jets, but experts argue these are inferior to U.S. aircraft, including the B-2 bomber. If attacked, Venezuela is preparing for what officials call prolonged resistance. Sources told Reuters that the government intends to wage guerrilla-style warfare, with small units operating from more than 280 dispersed sites to conduct sabotage and asymmetric attacks. One component of that strategy includes deploying the country's 5,000 Russian-made Igla missiles. Orders reportedly direct military units to scatter and hide upon the onset of any U.S. strike. Another strategy is believed to be anarchization, that would rely on intelligence forces and armed government supporters to create disorder in Caracas with the aim of making the capital ungovernable. Experts warn that a conflict in Venezuela could also draw in other armed groups. Colombian guerrilla fighters operate along the western frontier, where coca cultivation remains entrenched. Amid escalating tensions, Venezuela held an air show and parachuting exhibition featuring vehicles, drones, and weapons from China, Russia, and Brazil.
Policía del Estado, también un paracaidista patriota. El pasaje del sistema.
Joining us live from Caracas, Venezuela, is Elias Ferrer. He's a founder of Orinoco Research, political and economic analyst. He is also the editor-in-chief of Guacamaya and a founding member of the outlet. Mr. Ferrer, thanks very much for your time. President Trump has been issuing threats on end for a month now. Nothing conclusive has happened. Do you think the American president is doing this just to invoke fear to Venezuela?
President Trump is trying to carry out essentially cost-free actions that have a very high symbolic and intimidation value, right? For example, he's flown B-2 bombers and other kinds of bombers along the coast of Venezuela. he said that the airspace is closed, even though he hasn't actually enforced it because there are other airplanes from different countries flying over Venezuela. He's also designated the so-called Cartel of the Suns as a terrorist organization. So everything is symbolic, but he's not dropping any bombs. He's not putting the lives of American soldiers at risk. So yeah, he's trying to make it work with intimidation alone. Now the question is, what is Trump going to do when intimidation doesn't work, right? And we learned this week that in the previous week, Trump and Maduro had their first phone call already.
Mr. Ferrer, how would you gauge President Maduro's response so far, including his recent campaigns of peace and now him hitting back and saying, if you close the airspace, keep the migrants in your country?
Well, I mean, this is not so much a threat as a reality, right? The United States is the country that is interested in sending migrants from their country to Venezuela, because Trump had this big campaign about Venezuelan migrants being criminals and all of them need to be deported and all that. He made a really big deal out of all of that. And now it's Trump himself who is saying the Venezuelan airspace is closed. So this is not really Maduro saying that he's not going to accept those flights. It's Maduro saying, hey, if you do this, you won't be able to do what you want to do, right? So because right now Maduro has been very conciliatory because the conventional military capabilities of Venezuela are no match for the United States. I mean, no country really is a match for the United States, let alone Venezuela. So that's why he's being so conciliatory, trying to say, you know what, your people don't want war and that kind of thing.
All right, Mr. Ferrer, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for talking to us today.